order of business will be roll call, and I believe Sarah's going to do that for us. You need to state your name and where you're located, correct, Sarah?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So please begin.
Mayor Mapes,
Present in Elma, Michigan.
Vice Mayor Harrington,
Present in Alma, Michigan.
Commissioner Allman,
Present in Alma, Michigan.
Commissioner Piccolo,
Present in Storm Lake, Iowa.
Commissioner Pitts,
Present in Alma.
Commissioner Warnick.
Present in Elm, Michigan.
Thank you.
Sarah and Matt, I don't know, or Sarah, I'm not sure if we need to note that Audra did ask to be excused tonight, I believe.
I will mark her as excused.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So with that, we do have a quorum for our meeting. Next up would be the Pledge of Allegiance. And Sarah or Aaron, I think one of you has a flag that we can put on the screen.
Hopefully.
And we'll all recite the Pledge of Allegiance when we see that going here. So I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of
of the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. Nice to have that done. It's probably the most awkward piece of the meeting, I think. For me, at least. I don't know about anybody else. But next up, we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Support.
Or are there any more corrections or additions, deletions? So I think this is the agenda as amended. Is that correct, or did it?
No, actually, I just added the approval of the agenda to the amendment. Let me say that again.
Never got published any different than
agenda
this.
to the agenda. Yes, it typically was not on the agenda to the agenda, so we're approving as presented.
Okay. Clarify.
I don't know if I did or not,
As
but I
amended?
tried.
Approval of the agenda as amended.
Support.
And again, any additions or corrections from this point forward? Seeing none. All those in favor, and I believe, Sarah, we can still use the thumbs up and an eye.
Yeah.
So all those in
Aye.
favor, thumbs up and an eye.
Aye.
Aye.
Supposed to be thumbs down and an A. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. Next, we'll have the approval, or we'll entertain the approval of the February 23rd, 2021.
Yes, thank you very much.
Move approval.
I believe we had motion and support there. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Or comments, for that matter? Okay, hearing none. Once again, thumbs up with an eye,
Aye.
Aye.
down and an A. Motion is passed. Thank you. Moving now to communications. We have a communication from the Gratiot Area Chamber of Commerce in appreciation for the city's support of the Baby It's event on February 13th.
Move to
Pleasure
receive.
to receive.
Support.
Okay, we have motion support. Any comments from staff on the event or this communication?
Just thanks for them. I already received some ideas of starting to look as we get to spring to recreate that in a little bit of a different atmosphere, though, hopefully where it's not so cold. We'll get started on that planning here soon.
Good.
Baby, it's warm outside.
There we go.
There you go. All right. Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor of receiving that memo, I guess it would be?
Aye.
Say aye. Those opposed, say nay. It is received. Thank you. Under hearings, we have a public hearing to consider an application for an obsolete property rehabilitation district or exemption application from Gemini Capital Management LLC at 220 East Superior Street.
Move
So
to
we'll
open the meeting.
Public hearing. I'm sorry.
Move to open the hearing.
Okay.
Support.
All those in favor, would it be an aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The meeting is opened. Eric, are you taking this one or Matt?
Yep, we'll take care of that. And Ryan Smith is on the line too for any other questions. This again is at 220 East Superior Street, the former Plaid Door building. The City Commission approved the establishment of an obsolete property exemption district on February 9th. This is the second phase. An application has been received by Gemini Capital. We deemed the building as functionally obsolete because the electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and the layout for barrier-free access does not meet the highest and best use for the property. The project window is looking pretty good, as you can see from the plans there. We received a actually building permit from the contractor this week already, and they're looking to get started next week with construction. The project will benefit us from a standpoint of we will have 2 new businesses in that location also. We have provided a resolution for you to approve in the subsequent section of your agenda, and we're recommending up to 12 years. We're recommending the 12 years exemption underneath the Oak Grove district.
Questions from the commission or comments? Looks like a very nice project.
Yes, very much so.
Is that what the plan is?
The front side of it is a barber shop, and the back side will be office space.
Okay.
Ryan just unmuted.
Yes, I think he was preparing to answer questions if you had any.
Oh.
But hearing none, we probably entertain a motion to close the hearing at this point.
So moved.
Support.
Any more comments? One last time. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed would be a nay. Motion is passed. We close the hearing. Our next, we'll skip down to F, recommendation on bids. We need to consider a resolution to receive bids for the Alma Police Department remodel project and award the project to the recommended bidder. The following bids were received, and we had looks like 4 different bids ranging from $88,290 all the way up to $152,130. And in this case, the recommended bidder by staff is not the lowest bid. It's the second lowest bid.
Third lowest.
What is your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Support.
We have a motion support. Are there any comments or questions?
Yeah, is there a special reason we went with that group? There wasn't a whole lot of money differences. Dave, is there?
I can answer that, Nick. I'm the one that went through the process with this, and I recommended them due to the fact that they were only $89 difference from the lowest bidder, and that the glowing recommendations that I was given by some of the businesses that use them for their buildings in our community, in our city. One of them's the CAC building, and the other one's First Bank, Northtown. And they had glowing reviews for KC Construction. So that was the reason.
More qualitative reason, right?
Good, Nick.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I said more for qualitative reasons, and they were relatively close bids.
That's exactly right, sir.
Like from previous clients, did you not have good recommendations from clients of the low bidder?
I've not heard anything that I don't know of the low bidder personally doing any work in our area to where someone would have given me a recommendation on them. These recommendations, one of them was unsolicited, and the other one was through a friend that works at the bank that informed me of the high recommendation and satisfaction with the work that they do with KC Construction.
As part of our routine process of accepting bids on a project like this, we don't normally seek out and ask for recommendations from clients of contractors.
That's what I said, that they were unsolicited with the what they won, that did the main building at the CAC.
And I'm sure they're a fine firm. I personally have no history with any of them. I am a little bit troubled when we don't take the low bids on things, because I think
It's $89, and if we have recommendations that somebody offered us, I would move forward with it.
For your opinion, Ms. Pitts, I appreciate that. But I still have a problem with the fact that we don't take the lowest bid, and we don't even, I guess there's two problems. If we're not soliciting references when we ask for contractors to bid on something, it seems like that should be part of our practice. I mean, I personally, I would do that. If I didn't know contractors, I would want to talk to some of their prior clients.
Well, we can discuss that at a later time, probably, of how we're going to do the steps of bidding moving forward. But the question is on the police department for right now, in my opinion.
That is correct. I'm just questioning the process.
We will make sure. I do believe there was more discussion than that, but it was the overwhelming of what was brought forward in those recommendations. So
And
that's why Mark made that decision.
the last time I reviewed the policy, and it's been a little while ago, but I'm assuming this hasn't changed. We do have the right
Correct.
to do this in the policy. There's language like that in the policy.
And I know that. I know we have the right.
No, I think
we don't get recommendations. That's not part of our, if we don't know people, because sometimes we know we've worked with people and we know one way or the other, whether we've had good experience in the past. Is that not part of our regular bidding process to get some type of recommendation or discussion about how people have done if we don't know them or have had experience?
one interesting thing too, I think, is Director Williams brought up a good point. When, you can ask for recommendations, I guess, or whatever, but you don't know the people even who are recommending. You know what I mean?
Correct.
We are fortunate in this case, apparently, because we know the people who are recommending, which, you know what I mean? I think that makes
it gives it more weight.
Gives it more weight. Yeah,
right.
I think so. But that's certainly something you could entertain as far as the policy is concerned. There could be an indication in the policy that should be done as a matter of course, I guess, if you wanted to.
But I understand what Greg is saying as far as it's a practice that either we are doing that for everybody, because I don't know any of them at all. And so if we're straying, and I recognize that it's $89 is negligible, and I certainly trust Director Williams' choice. I have no question about that. But as a policy, if we're going to stray from going with the lowest bidder, then we either need to be providing all three. And I recognize that this is a bigger picture, but it is the situation we're discussing right now.
Sure. And where is JBS located? Are they
Mount Pleasant?
Okay. So they're not in the county.
I think EFA is the only one that's in the county.
That's correct.
Because I guess that's the last thing you think about is there a local preference too?
Assuming we didn't get references from anyone at that point, other than the unsolicited ones that were brought to your attention. Okay. And, quite frankly, it's only $89, but when we don't take the lowest bid, it can have the effect, over time, granted, one isn't going to do it, but over time, if you have a habit of not taking the lowest bid, you will not get low bids. I mean, it's just, people are going to figure it's predetermined who you're going with, and those that might bid low will not be bidding. And again, one event doesn't sour the pot, but over time, it does become reality. So with that, are there any further questions or comments? We'll move to the question. All those in favor signify by thumbs up and an eye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And I'll be a nay, so it's one against, and everyone else is for it. The motion is passed. Thank you very much. Next up is a resolution approving and authorizing the obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate for Gemini Capital Management at LLC at 220 East Superior Street.
Move approval.
I have a motion and support. Any comments or questions on this? Obviously, we just heard about it. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay. We're all in favor, so the motion is passed. Thank you and congratulations, Ryan. If he's still on, looks like maybe he's gone. Moving down to agreements. First up is consideration of a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with the City of St. Louis for property assessment administration to be administered by the City of Alma assessor, which will list, appraise, and maintain a complete set of records for all real and personal property subject to ad valorem tax, specific taxes, and in lieu of tax agreements within the corporate limits of the City of St. Louis. The contract date is May 1st, 2021 through April 30, 2022. Your pleasure.
Move approval.
Support.
Motion and support. Okay, ever any comments or questions? We've probably beat that dead horse enough. Hearing none. All those in favor, aye.
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 And opposed, same would be a nay. Okay, the motion is passed. Thank you. All in favor. Next up is consideration of a resolution to approve an interlocal agreement with St. Louis Ithaca Pine River Township, with the St. Louis Ithaca Pine River Township Authority, Transit Authority, commonly known as SLIPR, for the provision of public transportation services by Alma to the geographical area of SLIPR's constituent communities and authorize its execution by the mayor and city clerk. Your pleasure.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. Are there any comments or questions?
I would just note, guys, since we made those changes, and I made them with the agreement of the attorney for SLIPR, but this would have to then be approved by SLIPR at their next meeting too, because there have been some changes since their last meeting. So this would be, we would approve it, authorize the signatures and whatever, and then SLIPR would consider it at their next meeting with Maryland.
So it cannot go into effect until they've approved it and signed it
Correct.
as well.
That's
Correct.
right.
So, okay. Enough.
So
Any
then if they
additional-
don't agree with it, it comes back? Is that, I mean, they already.
Yes.
The attorney and I discussed them and agreed to them. I would assume they're aware of it, but they have not passed on it yet at
Okay.
a meeting.
Hey, hearing none. All those in favor will be an aye. A thumbs up.
Aye.
Those opposed will be a nay and a thumbs down. And I'll be the nay with a thumbs down, if you would please. But the motion has passed. Thank you. Okay, next up is consideration of a resolution to agree regarding athletic facility use of the Washington baseball fields between the City of Alma and the Alma Youth Softball, an affiliate of the Police Athletic League, commencing on March 15th and ending August 31st, 2021. Your pleasure.
Move approval.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion of support. Any background from staff or questions from the commission?
This is just a continuation of an agreement we have with the Youth Softball League. They didn't obviously do too much out there last year. They did try to get a couple just, get-togethers out there, but they hope to be back in full swing this year. And it's very similar to what we do with the Little League. So they take care of the fields. We mow it once a week, take care of the trash, and they use the field and take care of the interior of it. So it's a win-win for everyone involved.
Hope they can play this year. Anybody else have comments or questions? Hearing none. Those in favor, thumbs up and an aye.
Aye.
Opposed would be thumbs down and an A. Motion is passed unanimously. Thank you. Fourth and final, consideration of a resolution to enter into a lease agreement with Joseph Butcher for the lease of property owned by the City of Alma. There are 8 parcels, including the parcels at 465 and 475 West Hoffman, for the purpose of crop farming for a term of 5 years, ending on the earlier of completion of the 2021 fall harvest, or December 31st, 2025. Your pleasure.
The way Eric, that's written a little bit different. It says ending on the earlier of completion of the 2021. This lease starts the 2021 crop year and ends at the end of the 2025 crop year or December 31st, whichever is earlier.
I think that's a typo on my part.
Yep. And it's and we do have in the lease agreement, like we discussed a couple meetings ago, that if we do find a buyer, developer for a industrial project out there, we will adjust the amount of acreage accordingly. That is in there also.
So with that clarification of the dates and also acknowledgement of the fact that if we do find a potential client or tenant to come into that property to build something, that we have that ability to terminate early, whatever portion is needed.
That's correct. That's in the lease too.
Yes, so we should be good. So with that understanding, do we need a different approval or motion? Now that we have clarification from what I said originally.
I'll make
Just to be
that
safe,
motion
can I get
with the clarifications.
Okay, thank you.
Support.
Very good, thank you. So with that, are there any comments or questions?
With that reappraisal, or if we decided to sell a portion of that, does it have to happen at a certain time of the year? Do they need to finish? Like, obviously, you're not going to sell it out from under if he's got crops in the ground.
No. Something like usually what will happen out there first, it'll be such a large project. Most likely we will see it coming months out before we would pull, like you said, pull something out. I think it'd be a nice transition, but we just wanted to have that in there in case something did happen, that Joe was aware of that. And also, I know the mayor asked about it last time. We did put in a piece that we will use a portion of that parcel for a billboard. So we did put that in there too. So.
Presumably, if we did have a project that was in that big of a rush, we could probably buy his crops out.
The buyer would probably want to buy his crops out, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's in that big of a rush, it'd be nice to have that problem.
Yeah,
let's hope we do. But very good question. Thank you, Danny. Anybody else? Hearing none. All those in favor signify with a thumbs up and an AA.
Aye.
Opposed would be thumbs down and an A. Looks like the motion or any commissioner may remove any item or all of the items within the section for individual discussion and vote. We have the Transit Authority February 2020 report, a building permits report for February 2021, a police department report for February 2021, a planning commission meeting minutes of March 1st, 2021, and the city manager's report for tonight. So your pleasure.
Matt, do you need yours pulled or no?
Sorry about that. Yeah, if we could, please. I just have a couple items that I feel would be good to bring up during that section. Thank you.
Move to approve pulling Matt's city manager report.
Support.
We have motion support. I presume, Michelle, that did include approval of the others?
Yes, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Anybody else real quick before we move on? Okay, hearing none. Those in favor of approving the first four would be a thumbs up and a yay.
Yay.
Those opposed would be a thumbs down and a nay. That motion is carried. Next, we need a motion to approve or to receive Matt's report. If we could get that, please.
Move to receive.
Support.
Matt, would you like to cover your materials for us, please?
Sure. Just a couple things I'd given you before, and honestly, I wrote this last week, and we hadn't heard yet if we had been accepted for the put your town on the map. I told Eric, I said, well, this is good. I'm being a little presumptive here, but just so you know, we did get news that we have been selected as one of 10 cities to make this pitch. So I just tried to give you a little idea of the scope of this, that we're really looking at a couple different spots, the alleyway between the the Strand and the Community Arts Center, which we think will be a real big boost for the city of how we can start to work on some of those things. And then the area around the chamber that has some of the open spaces. And it's a lot of the different things we've been talking about, and some specific art structures and some things to go in there working with the community. So we're going to spend some time later this week of finalizing that pitch. The good thing was we'd already had an outline from last year. So really anxious and thankful to Diane at the Arts Center, and then for Brendan at the Chamber of really working hard on this. So keep your fingers crossed. We'll be presenting that in April 13th and 14th. 14th, I believe, is the date we'll present it. Go ahead, Greg.
Just thinking out loud here, and probably not a smart thing to do, but in an open meeting. But as we approach this alleyway project, and perhaps even the areas that are owned by the chamber, we should probably look into maybe creating a park out of one or more of those. I think that might open some possibilities for some funding options
different areas that it could be there. Yeah, that could be some different areas for funding. I do know Eric and I talked a little bit with the alleyway is still ours. We would have to do some easement, correct, Eric, to get that as we go forward, but we'd like to see, and I think we're going to probably look to do that anyway with the players in the Arts Center. I know with the mural going up there's some real good things to look at. So I think those would be some areas.
We have a desperate need for an artistic art room downtown, or an artistic outhouse downtown.
Well,
of some sort
to do. Plus, think about some of the other things that we've just done. When you talk about the baby, it's cold outside, what we go through in some of those processes, we'd already have a park. Some of those things would already exist that would be available and allowed to be done there. So wish us luck. I know it'll be interesting. I'm hopeful. We've got some help coming to put those things together, and no matter what happens, I think it will start a planning process for some of this stuff to start to happen downtown. On the flip side of that, I had informed you last meeting that we were really excited that the CEC conference, the Connecting Entrepreneurial Communities Conference, was a go for October. We had a meeting shortly after that it's not a go. As we talked more with the folks from MSU Extension, I really think when you're dealing with Michigan State University, so much of what MSU Extension can do and plan is based on where the university is at right now within their planning structure. And we decided to err on the side of caution, that it just doesn't appear that we can get enough 100% commitment that it will happen this October. And so that whole thing of all the planning process that would be necessary, but we did solidify and make sure that there's an understanding between us, MSU Extension, and all the folks involved that we are in-person conference in October of the following year. So we're still on the plate. It's just going to take us a little longer to get there. Want to discuss with you some of the changes that we've seen come through with the Open Meetings Act moving forward that were changed last week. And really for our purposes here, what we're talking about is under the order at this point, if some of these things change, we could look to come back to the room I'm sitting in again and have more of an in-person process, or maybe move into library where there's more space if we would be comfortable at a time, because at this point we'd be looking at 25 people. The only problem with a public meeting is, again, you still sit back and say, so then what do you do if more than 25 show up? And so I did see that the Michigan Municipal League did put a thing out today asking to extend the possibility past March 31st of us still being able to continue to do virtual. And I think that was their reasoning on that too, is there's too many unknowns in a public meeting. So if there's any input that you guys have, I would love for us to be able to be sitting back here together and doing this face to face, but we'll have to just keep seeing where this goes. But just know we will be available to do that after March 31st. At least it looks like right now. So, with the other caveats of 25 people and most likely wearing masks.
But then we're covered also to continue doing it this way?
Yes, they are.
Or we have to
be able to still do that. And that's what MML is looking to extend, that can be extended out. And it does appear that we're not going to be required that we have to meet in person, but we'll have the option.
Okay, great.
So we'll just see as we get to the next 2 weeks or the next meeting, see where we're at and maybe communicate. I do know some people have made some decisions. They've already said they're going to go back to in person. Again, my biggest thing is if you're still at 25, you really have all of a sudden, if people start coming through the door, we can't stop them from coming at that point. We could end up in a situation. So we'll see where that goes. I put on here that I think is a really good idea. Spectrometer, correct, David? Okay, all right. I had trouble with that word when we were writing it down. That we have an old one that's been sitting here that we don't use, well over 30 years old, and it doesn't function for what we use it for anymore. It's actually become obsolete to the point that it's cheaper for us to, if we had any issues with us donating to college for them to use it. Correct?
I apologize, man. It was kind of fuzzy when you were talking. What is it you're talking about donating? Some kind of a piece of laboratory equipment?
It's a spectrometer that measures, okay, flame AA spectrophotometer actually is the whole thing, which was used by wastewater to analyze metals. They used that through there and it did an analysis of metals. But over time, we really don't use it anymore. It's more cost effective to have that actually done by contract than it is to continue to use this machine. So it's been sitting. And so apparently Mr. Borello thinks this would be a really good use that he could use with students, and it'd be good for the community. So if everybody here thinks that we're in a pretty good spot to be able to do that, I think it'd be a good idea for us to let the college donate that to the college, get it out of our space, and allow it to be used for educational purposes.
If I could, Dave, Matt said we're not using it anymore because it's cheaper to outsource it. Is it the technology of the machine is outdated and a contractor can do it more efficiently because they've got better, more modern equipment?
In a way, yes. It still has a use. It is still still a good working machine. It's still accurate, but the amount of time that it takes for us to run our own analysis, it's much cheaper for us to send it out. Whereas opposed, it's like $10 a sample for us to send it out. And for us to take the couple hours to use the machine, it's been literally sitting on the shelf for 12 or more years because of that reason, is it takes us longer to run those samples ourselves than it would be just to send out a sample to have a private lab run them. And instead of just sitting there with us not using it, the idea was to donate to the college for them to use it as a learning tool, because it is something that they can still use and teach the students to check for metals in wastewater or water materials or any type of liquid for that matter.
Is it something that the public schools would be interested in as well, or is it just the college?
Just the college, because the specialty of the use, that it would be something for an environmental class is what we were looking at. For a high school, it's much too advanced for something like that. The college has one similar, and they were very much excited to get this type of machine from it. They have one similar to it, and they were very, very excited to find out the opportunity. So before we did, we wanted to know what the commission's thoughts were on it.
Give us some idea what the value of it might be, if there's any on the open market.
Back when
for a
we
10-year-old piece of equipment.
I don't know, to be honest with you, what it would be on the private market. If there were any other type of wastewater plant that would be interested in it, for the simple fact that because of the samples are so much cheaper than to buy that equipment. If we ran samples more often than we do, it might, but even then, for the cost of it, I really wouldn't know. I mean, it'd be something that colleges would be interested in, for that matter. Back when we bought this device back 30 plus years ago, this would have been probably a $10,000 piece of equipment. It's a higher end for what it is, in the name of the spectrometer that it is. It's still a name brand. It's still very useful for a learning tool, for that matter, but we simply don't use it just based on a cost benefit analysis now.
Is there ever a threat of losing any of those labs and having the ability to send it to a lab?
No, we have an abundance of different labs for different types of samples that we go to. And it's another tool we don't have to calibrate as well either, do it routinely.
It has been sitting for 12 years.
Yeah, 12 plus years. I've talked to Darren. I saw it on the shelf. It's quite a robust piece of equipment. It's probably the size of a desk, and it would take about 3 to 4 adults to carry it. What it does is it sends light through a series of mirrors, and what it's doing is looking for metals and those type of contaminants in liquids is what it analyzes.
Sitting on the shelf size of the desk, it's actually taking up a considerable amount of floor space, I would presume.
Yeah, we've got it stored away right now, but yeah, it's quite robust. This is not something that's the size of like a PC or a small, like you would think of now. That it's probably drastically shrunk if you were to buy a new one right now, just because technology's improved, but it's still useful for someone.
It's going to be on our agenda for next month then, to actually make the donation.
Do that. Yep. We will do that. I just wanted to make sure that we were going down a path. I just think that it was nice to see. And at least when I talked to Darren, Mr. Borello's excitement was pretty high. I can't say the word, and yet his excitement was pretty high for this thing. So as we'll do. So we'll look to that. And then I just wanted to give you an update on what we've got going with some of the college students. We're and a point of emphasis for the college has been to get their students more involved in the community. That's been obviously very, very difficult during these times, but we have figured out some ways to use some of the college students that are going to help us out, and really taking them through the Aspires plan that we're still trying to kickstart and get going. And some areas are working better than others, but we do have, as I say here, some of them working on a history project. They're history students. They're going to work on a history project to look at some of the different history of our downtown buildings and some of the things there to try and get some, and then utilize that through a social media aspect too, to film some interesting things that will just help promote the area, but actually looking at our heritage. They're formulating those plans right now as to how they're going to do that. They're also working on just looking at the different industries that have come through the city of Alma and seeing how, as we continue to try to recreate where we're at right now, how the city has done this in the past, how we've changed from different industry to different industry as we've grown. And then we have a couple that really had an interest in how could they help with some of the biking and things that are going on in the area and the stuff that we hear from. And kind of neat to see that they are looking at the creation of a digital bike map, or actual two things. It would be, one would be a folded thing that gives you an area to look at of both Gratiot and Isabella counties to get all the maps together. Somebody pointed out we have the Delmac that runs through here with hundreds and hundreds of people on bikes, and yet we have nothing to bring them back, even though they're all here. It's be a nice tool to be able to utilize and say, so they're out working in some of the business community to try and get some funding to help with this. And then they're going to also use the social media aspect to be able to try and promote it. So just nice to see that we've got some continued help from folks from the college of wanting to make sure that we keep moving forward. So and that was the other, just to let you know, the other piece of paper I had here was to let you know that we did actually make it into the pitch competition. So
good.
Yeah.
Matt, I had a question on the green space, especially in between the theater and the ACAC building. I haven't heard anything from GCP because we haven't met and nothing exists right now with GCP up until October. Would that eliminate driving into that alley at all? There's two doors on the side of that building that are often used for delivery. I for one, am up next to the small door very often with costumes and stuff like that. Would we no longer be able to use those doors?
The doors to the north, Roger, you'd be able to use. We would just close the alley off from the sidewalk on Superior to the back edge of the Alma Arts Center building there. So that back area where the double doors are at, that would be still accessible off the east-west alley.
Okay.
So no problem there.
Is there talk of just green spacing it or paving it, Eric?
This is part of the, like it's been mentioned, like a park,
right,
those sort of things. So we've talked about lighting. Dave and I met with a contractor yesterday. Obviously, we're looking at some more decorative poles to hold up our banner that goes across the street there. I'd like to see the anchors that are in both those buildings go away, and we have a dedicated poles for those. So yeah, we're still kind of looking at those, and the impetus for it was the mural being there. Yeah. And then of course the group Matt's talking about looking at some funding to spruce that up and the areas around the chamber. So we'll see what comes up with that, but lighting's been talked about too. So
okay, all right, thank you.
The other thing too, they did double their prize money, seeing as they didn't spend any last year. So there is more prize money available through this. So if not first, we'd like to just get in the game and see if we can't get something to get this thing kickstarted.
Now, does that alley go all the way through to Downey? Or does that, I know there's a cross alley there, but does it continue to go through?
Yeah, the alley goes all the way down to Downey Street, but we would just vacate that portion of the alley for this public area.
Is there any way that you'd be able to redo portion of that? Because I know a lot of the businesses, such as Pizza One, mine, for example, takes a lot of people actually take that way to get back to that back parking lot. A lot of times there's Pizza One will take deliveries and things like that right behind their building, actually blocking entrance to the alley from Woodworth. And so a lot of people take that superior entrance to get to behind those buildings where essentially a lot of parking is.
Well, if we close it down, you wouldn't be able to access it that way.
But the
It would just be off of Woodward.
east-west
would be open. We would just close off, kind of like what we did with the Braveheart and the building to the west there. It's just the back of the Braveheart up to Superior Street. The east-west alley is still open, and the alley from that east-west alley to the south to Center Street is still open. So
that's what I was saying. If we could
First
get
50 feet or so of that alley off
to get north to Downey, so that way people could still have access in through that way. Obviously, you still have it from what's that? Gratiot
From Gratiot.
Downey, yeah.
Yep, we would not close anything east-west or from the most southern portion of that alley that runs east-west north to Downey Street. That would still all be open.
But like I said, at certain points of the day, the alley could be blocked from Pizza One, and then down by the barbershop or those apartments. I've been back there when both of those entrances are both blocked and people can't get in and out of that alley
Because of cars, Danny?
What's that?
You have other cars that are in there blocking it?
Delivery.
Deliveries, FedEx, UPS. I've seen water trucks back there. It's been a situation where it's like, I don't know. I mean, because we've always had access from Downey, and then, well, not really Downey, because it's not really that great. To be honest with you. A lot of people come in from Superior if they can't get through.
Right.
Obviously I have a vested interest in that back lot. And it has happened multiple times where people can't get back there because both those, if that Superior entrance was blocked, could not get back there.
Yeah, that will change that, because that will be something that, because once it's closed, it's closed. It will be the poles most likely, like you see over at the pub area, that would have to. And so there may be some enforcement we've got to do with making sure that those delivery trucks and those aren't there for ever, long periods of time. Make sure the access is still there.
Questions, comments? Hearing none. Those in favor of receiving Matt's report would be an aye and a thumbs up.
Aye.
Aye.
Be a negative thumbs down and an A. The report is received. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate the information. Moving down to appropriations. Is there any desire to pay the bills tonight?
I move we pay the bills.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Are there any comments or questions about the bills? Okay, hearing none. Those in favor again, an aye and a thumbs up.
Aye.
Aye.
Supposed to be a thumbs down and an A. The motion is passed. Thank you very much. Now we'll move to commissioner comments. Roger, you're first on the upper left side of my screen, so if you would, please.
I don't honestly think I have anything tonight. I'm just glad to see it getting warm. I wish it would last, but we know in our hearts it won't. Look at the map and look at the calendar. It's February. It's Michigan. But anyway,
It's March.
It's March, yeah. Don't put us back in February.
Well, it is March, yeah.
I mean, it's March. I'm sorry. Yes. Who knows?
Okay, well, anything else, Roger?
No, sir. No, sir.
All right, moving on to Mr. Piccolo.
I think it's Hop Roger. All right, it's June, and I think it's, I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Let's see, Michelle.
Arts United raised over $62,000. So that's great that our community could come together during a pandemic and raise that much funds for all of us to help out each other. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to Valerie Holinsky. About 3 years ago, she came up with a plan to do a park downtown, and she had it all set up with ideas of what to do. And she met with Brendan and showed him some ideas to what to do in those lots next to the chamber office. And she was moving forward with that. And then she happened to get a job that was full-time, so her time wasn't available to volunteer, but she kind of got the motion started to bring I mean, there was a lot of people, but she was the one that really put in the time and effort to put a lot of work into thinking of what the parks could be. And she presented it to some of us. So that was very nice of her. And I'll be excited to share with her that it's moving forward. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. Danny.
No comments today. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Roxanne. Roxanne.
Roxanne's frozen.
Your screen frozen? Did you move it?
I think we lost Roxanne.
Off my screen. Does anybody else have
I
her
think
yet?
I think she's disappeared.
Made it all the way right to the end.
Apparently she's connecting. She's like a voice crying out in the wilderness. She's connecting as I got a text from her, so we can come back to her.
Okay. Well, I don't have anything else myself. Thank you, everyone. Great night. And like Roger, I'm looking forward to warmer weather, and hopefully it's going to be here. So we'll move on to public comments. Are there any members of the public that would like to make any comments tonight? Hearing none, we can move for adjournment. Is there anyone care to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right.